This is the Thriving Artist Podcast with Andrea Fleming, where we talk about how to go from surviving as an artist to thriving as an artist. Let's go. Guess what I'm going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about saying no to offers. This is crazy because I feel like as performers, we're conditioned to believe that we should never say no to offers. We should always be saying yes. We should just get what comes to us. And I highly disagree with this. It took me several years into my career to understand that we should not be saying yes to everything. But I finally got here, and now I'm like a hardcore proponent of people saying no to things. So I want to talk today about why we should be saying no to things, when we should be saying no to things, how to be at peace with saying no. And then I also want to share some strategies and ways of thinking that make it a lot easier to say no to offers when you know that they're not right for you. So this all came up because I was recently negotiating a contract for myself. And at the time of outlining this episode, I was like, oh, this is such a perfect example of saying no to offers that are not right for me. I'm going to make an episode of it. Turns out, I actually, they came back with a counter offer, and then we ended up being more flexible on negotiating with me. So I did eventually say yes to this, but I still wanted to make this podcast because I think it's still super valuable what I experienced when I was in the no phase. And I might actually make an episode later, maybe next month, about how the negotiation process went. I think that would be super valuable. Anyway, let's talk about when I was in the no phase. I knew that for this particular contract, what they were offering wasn't the right choice for me, because to me, it wasn't the right amount of compensation, like monetary compensation, and they didn't offer benefits that I thought would make it worth it for me to go and do this contract. It's an out-of-town contract. So I was like, this is not worth it for me to leave my home, leave behind benefits that I've already created for myself in order to go do this. So I immediately was like, no. If this were me several years ago, I wouldn't even had that thought process. I would have just been like, oh my God, somebody's offering me something. Yes, I'm going to take it. But I've come to a place where I am much more willing to prioritize my own values and my own goals over just any job. And I want more of us to start thinking like this, because again, like I said earlier, we get conditioned to believe that we should just be saying yes to everything. And because we do that, we end up creating careers for ourselves that either we don't really enjoy, like we start doing jobs that we don't really enjoy, or we end up creating a career where we are stagnant, right? So we just start saying yes to everything, disregarding the financial exchange that we get out of it. So we like maybe take jobs that don't pay us very well over and over just because we think that we should just accept it because it's what we get. But because we do that, we just stay at that same level over and over. So there's lots of reasons that I think that's poor conditioning. I think it's poor conditioning to say yes to everything. Maybe at the very beginning of your career, saying yes to more things than you say no to things is appropriate. But I even think I think that it depends on the person, but you can start saying no a lot earlier than we are conditioned to believe that we should. Especially if the offer is like just going against very important things like your financial health and like your values. So here's some thoughts that are super common that get in the way of us being able to open our perspective to the idea that we can say no. It all comes back to this idea that, and this is what we're conditioned to believe, that it makes us more legit or more professional if, one, we're booked all the time, and two, we only make money from performing. So the first point, I hear this all the time from artists, and I used to believe this myself, that I should be booked back to back all year round, and I should be like loading up my calendar with only performing jobs, because that would make me legit. If I had any gaps in my employment as an artist, then, oh, maybe I'm not a real artist. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not a real professional. I also used to believe like, oh, all of my money should come from performing, because if it doesn't, then that means I'm not actually a professional. Like I can't actually support myself being an artist, so I'm not a real artist. I know that these two things are not only my thoughts, that like these are thoughts that a lot of us performers share. And again, we kind of like absorb this from maybe our conservatory programs. We also like get this belief system from just in general society and like how we think of traditional work. If we were in a traditional 9 to 5, then maybe it would make more sense to think, oh, I should be having this work year round with no gaps and I should make all my money from this. That probably makes more sense in that regard. And because most of our society is built on that structure, we might pick up some of those belief systems from that. But our job is not like that. We are freelance. We are more in the realm of entrepreneurial if we're recording artists or if we are self-producers of our own work. So it's not going to look the same way as a professional. So those two thoughts I find are the biggest things that hold us back. But in my opinion, what I have come to learn in experimenting in other professional realms and building other businesses and other careers is that a professional actually doesn't say yes to everything. And a professional is not necessarily someone who is consistently and constantly working all the time in their profession. And also that like at different points in your professional career, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a professional if you're not making money from only that thing. And here are the two examples that come to mind. One is my personal training business. When I started off as a personal trainer, I thought, like many of us think, that I should be booked all day, like 8 hours straight doing personal training. And that's how I knew that I was a full-time trainer and that I was a legit professional. But what I came to realize very quickly is when you're doing work like that, you actually can't be booked 8 hours straight back to back with clients because you will burn out. My full-time as a personal trainer looked a lot different than the traditional full-time of maybe someone who is in corporate America. What I also learned is because it's more of an entrepreneurial style of work, I'm not going to have the same workload from month to month, from week to week, right? It's going to fluctuate because clients cancel, some clients reach their goals and they offboard, and then I have to bring on more clients. So to think that I have to have a certain number of hours every week or a certain workload from month to month, that's what makes me a professional, actually does not align with how the reality of the industry. The other example is both actually personal training and building my coaching business, which is I should be making all my money from those things. If I had that thought, I would never grow my business and I would never be a professional, because when you're starting off in those things, it's not like a normal 9 to 5. You don't just do an interview and then you get a salaried position and you just get paid for the rest of the year. No, you have to actually build up a clientele in each of those. So if I had thought to myself, oh, I'm not a professional until I have a full book of clients, that would have actually prevented me from getting a full book of clients, because I would never think that I was professional enough or legit enough. And so I would hold myself back because, well, that's just me. I feel like if you have integrity and you want to offer valuable services and you want to be in alignment with what you offer, if you're thinking that you're not a professional, what likely will happen is that you will not offer your services, right? Because you'll be like, oh, I'm not professional enough. I'm not ready yet. I don't think I can actually help people. Right. So I had to believe that I was a professional before I had a full book of personal training clients. I had to believe that my knowledge and skills made me a professional, not the amount of money I was making, not the amount of hours. Same with coaching. When I was starting my coaching business, I had to believe that because I had gone through training and I had started marketing myself, that is what made me a professional, not having full book of clients, not making however much money I thought I should be making in my business. So for me, those things don't define being a professional. And being a professional means that I had to say no to some opportunities. So here's an example. There would be times when personal training clients would come to me, or potential personal training clients would come to me, and they would be like, hey, I really, really want to lose weight. But I am not willing to change my diet. And I am only willing to work out once a week, right? That's an extreme example of, and these definitely happen, of people who would come to me and be like, I want you to help me get results. And I would have to be like, actually, that's not possible. So here's what I would do with you if we work together. Otherwise, I don't think it would be a good fit, right? So I would have to say no to those clients if they weren't willing to bend. Same thing with coaching clients that come to me. There's sometimes that coaching clients come to me, or potential coaching clients, and they go, hey, I want to work on all this trauma that I have from my childhood. And I also have this diagnosed mental condition that I want to work through. I can't say no to that. It is out of my scope of practice. And saying yes would actually be detrimental to me as a professional. So it's more professional for me to say no because they're not good fits. Or even like, it doesn't even have to be something that's out of my scope. It can be someone that I think is not a good fit for me to work with. Either I don't think that we would communicate together well, or I don't think that we would, our ideals will align, our values will align. And so it's actually more of a professional thing for me to say, hey, I don't think we would be a good fit together. Here's some other names that you can look into of people that you would work with. So in my definition of being a professional, it means that you actually say no to some things and that you don't say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. Okay, that was a lot of talking. Here's why I think that we should be saying no to more offers. And if you haven't picked up on it yet, I kind of alluded to it in the past example of what it means to me to be a professional. But to me, we should be saying no to a lot more offers, because most gigs and offers are actually not right for you and or are not right for your career. So what does that mean exactly? Like, to me, if I get offered a job that would have me compromise in inappropriate ways, any of the following things, to me, that's not a gig that's right for me, or it's not right for my career. So if it would have me compromise my values, and that could be like moral values, or that could just be like lifestyle values. Like if I value having lots of free time, and this is a gig that would have me do like 13 shows a week, that's not a show that's right for me. I'm not interested. If it has you compromise your values in the sense that it promotes, I don't know, bullying, and a value of yours is to not bully, maybe you shouldn't take a job that offers you a role where it promotes bullying. If it compromises your health and safety, it's probably not a good job for you. If you wouldn't enjoy doing it, this one is like, use discernment with, because sometimes you take a job because one of your values is you want to build your resume, and maybe it's not a job that really lights you up, but you're willing to do it because right now your priority is to build your resume. Or you wouldn't really enjoy doing it, but you really appreciate the message, and you think the message is important for people to get out there, right? So that's one of the things you're going to have to use discernment on. But for the most part, what I found is if you wouldn't enjoy doing it, likely it has some aspect of it that doesn't align with your values, or it's not enough of a priority. Like the things that it offers are not enough of a priority for you to actually find enjoyment in it, right? Does that make sense? Because if I knew something was going to be super good for my career, or if I knew that it really aligned with my values, there's going to be some part of me that enjoys doing it. So likely if I wouldn't enjoy doing it at all, if I look at an offer and I'm just like, this is not going to be fun, I'm probably going to think that it's not the right job for me. If it doesn't pay you enough, and again, this is going to be a discernment thing, you're going to have to decide what enough is for you. For me, it has to pay me enough that I can actually afford my living expenses. For some people, that's not important. Some people, they have parents that still pay for their lifestyle and their apartments and all that stuff. I need to pay for all my own expenses. So for me, enough is at least that it pays for my expenses. Maybe enough for you, which is kind of where I am in my career, is that it has to pay you enough for the value of your work. If it's paying, maybe it does pay all of your expenses, but like, that the level that you are at needs to be compensated higher, that's probably a job that doesn't pay you enough, in my opinion. It doesn't contribute to the lifestyle you want, then it's likely not a good job for you. Like, if you know that the lifestyle you want is that you have enough time to exercise, that you get to eat healthily and eat your meals in a certain time frame in a day. Maybe it's that you have the ability to do other work and have other hobbies. If it takes away from that, maybe it's not the right job for you. If it doesn't move you toward the type of career that you want or progress your career in some way, again, this is a discernment thing. Some people, it's more important for them to just do fun jobs and it doesn't have to move your career in any which way. But if that is a priority for you, if that is a value of yours to grow your career and to build a certain type of career, then this is probably going to be one of the things that you look at when you're deciding if an offer is right for you. I want you to think about all the things that I just brought up, all those points that I just brought up, and think about times that you have actually said yes to jobs and violated some of these points when you knew they were priorities or values for you. And times where maybe it's been the opposite. Maybe you actually have said no to a job and it was really, really hard and you have never done that before and you probably haven't done it since, but you actually maybe subconsciously or even consciously did it based on a list like this. And I would love to hear what you have to share on that. I also want you to think about what are some other points that come up for you as things that would actually be a reason you would say no to a job, right? What things would a job have to ask you to compromise in inappropriate ways that would not be worth it to say yes to? Now I think getting into why or how you can be at peace with saying no when you realize a job is not a good fit. Because I think a lot of times, even when we know these things, when we know that we shouldn't be saying yes to a gig, we still say yes to it because we aren't actually seeing a way to be at peace with saying no. We either think that we should take a job, even though it's not a good fit, or we're thinking that we'll regret not taking the job because X reason. Here's some of the things that come up when I think about this. What I find is a lot of times we're not at peace with saying no because we are either not willing to walk away from money or we're not willing to not be booked. Right? So it comes from these embedded beliefs of I should be booked back to back, or I should be making all of my money from performing, right? So let's dig into these a little bit more. So when we're not willing to walk away from money, of course, we're not going to be at peace with saying no, right? Because we're turning down money. But what prevents us from being willing to walk away from money are things like not being willing to make money outside of performing and thinking that you are only perceived as legit, only perceived as professional if you don't have survival jobs or if you don't have second careers. One of the ways that I think is super helpful to start working your way out of some of these beliefs is to think of ways that support you in finding and creating income outside of performing. So one of the ways that really worked for me as I was changing this way of thinking is to think about why I'm grateful or why I feel blessed to be able to make money outside of performing. So one way that I think about it is I'm blessed to have so many ways to make money so that I can build the performing career of my dreams. When I think that thought, I feel so much more abundance and openness around making money and around my career. And I don't feel so attached to money that comes in from performing offers. Another thing that comes up when I think about not being willing to walk away from money is this relationship that in general artists seem to have with finances. So this idea that artists just are always broke. And so when we actually look into our finances. We have proof of that. So we're afraid to actually walk away from an offer because we don't want to live into that belief that artists are always broke. Or maybe like legitimately you feel like you need the money. But again, what's stopping you from finding other ways to make money? What's stopping you from working towards adjusting your finances so that you can step away from offers? One way of thinking that I've utilized in order to move myself away from this old program belief that artists are just broke and like trying to escape that idea is telling myself I'm actually capable of creating more income, managing my finances, regardless of the performing jobs I get. So that kind of double dips into the first point, which is I actually don't need any performing jobs in order to make money. I don't actually need to wait on an offer in order to make money. I can go out and make money on my own. I'm capable of creating my own income. I'm capable of managing my finances and being responsible for my finances. One other way of thinking, before we move on to the second point, that will help you to become more at peace with saying no and being willing to walk away from money is this idea of increasing your booking conversions. So this might come up in the second point as well, but I find it's especially helpful when thinking about the financial aspect of saying yes or no to offers. Because if you do increase your booking conversions, then you're not going to be so attached to making money from this one gig because you know that other offers are going to come in. So it involves reprogramming the belief that booking jobs is hard or rare, or that you have no control over it, or that it's not going to happen again. One of the ways that I think about it is reminding myself that more offers are coming. Knowing that I've had offers in the past, there's definitely going to be more. And if I got this offer, another offer is probably sure to happen at some point in the near future. Maybe that's a stretch for you. What I might start with, if that feels like a stretch, that more offers are coming, is to just start with more opportunities are coming. Maybe that means that you are able to see that you have more callbacks in your pipeline, or that more auditions are available to you, so you can at least audition and create more offers. Which of those thoughts feels most accessible to you? And when you find the thought that feels accessible to you, how does it feel in your body? Does it feel more empowering, or does it feel more inspiring? And the reason I ask is because, of course, our feelings are what drive our actions. And if we feel more empowered to create more jobs for ourselves, or more inspired to create more jobs for ourselves, it makes it so much easier to be willing to walk away from money and say no to what's not right for us. All right, the second point, being willing to not be booked yet. This is separate from the money thing, because sometimes it's not even a matter of the finances. It's literally just like, we just don't want to be seen without having a performing job. This is so common. And I am always so surprised every time I hear a performer say this, because I always think that I'm the only person who has ever had this thought, but like, it's literally all of us. A lot of us are not willing to be seen, not booked. It's crazy. And here are some of the reasons. Sometimes we're afraid that others might have thoughts about us in our career if we're not booked back to back. Like, oh, they're going to think that I'm not legit. They're going to think that I am not good at my job, or they're going to think that I'm not ever going to make it, or whatever the thought is. It's always some version of they're going to judge me and my career and my talents. Which is, it's very uncomfortable, right? We are a social creature, and we have evolved to depend on each other for our survival, right? Our societies are built on that. So it makes a lot of sense. But if we were to come back to reality and understand that individual people having thoughts about whether or not you're booked for the month of March is not really that big of a deal, and not really that big of an impact on your career. So the way that I like to think about this is I remind myself that I actually don't have to prove anything to anyone in order to have the career that I love. I don't have to prove to my last cast that I'm able to book another job, right? Because they're not going to be the ones giving me a job. I don't have to prove to my agents that I can book a job, because I've been booking jobs Since before I even started working with them, I've been booking jobs while I've been working with them. So I don't have to prove to them that I can book another job. I don't have to prove to, I don't know, my partner that I can book another job, because again, I've been booking jobs. I have booked jobs before. I've booked jobs during a relationship, and it's not necessary for them to have thoughts that support me in that. I don't have to prove it, because my career is not relying on them and their thoughts. I will always book jobs, right? So now you're seeing some of my thinking come in on on my abundance around getting offers. I always think that I'm going to get offers. I always think that I'm going to get opportunities and callbacks and auditions. So it makes it a lot easier for me to think I don't have to prove anything to anyone. Next point is letting go of needing to have every second booked. So sometimes it's not even about what other people will think. It's just this old programming of feeling like you need to be booked all the time. So some ways that I like to think about it are, I'm not an artist because of the number of jobs I book. I'm an artist because of my gift of expression, right? There are times when I'm making art and I am doing art and it has nothing to do with any job that I'm in. I'm still an artist, right? So if you have a hang up on being perceived as a legit artist, I encourage you to think about what actually makes you an artist, and to look for examples in your life where you were being an artist, regardless of whatever job you were doing, whatever offers you were having, maybe even times where you were not even booked, where you were being an artist. The second way I like to think about it is, I'm a professional artist because I get paid to make art, not because of the number of jobs I book, right? So listen, this can work for you even if you've only ever booked one performing job, because you are a professional artist because you got paid for a professional performing job, right? If that doesn't work for you, if it gets into this feeling of like, oh, then I need to make money in order to be perceived as a professional, don't use that thought. Instead, use the thought, I am a professional artist because I am trained to create art for work. I am trained to act. I'm trained to sing, right? That makes you a professional. Use what works for you to help create the feeling that's going to help you move you in the direction that you want to. The next point is increasing your booking conversion. So again, we talked about this. I think it helps in both categories of not being willing to be booked and not being willing to say no to money. This helps for both of those things. If you increase your booking conversions, it's going to be a lot easier for you to not be willing to be booked in this moment, because you're going to think, oh, there's more jobs coming. I may not be booked the first week of February, but I'm going to be booked halfway through February. So it's totally fine if I say no to this one offer. Again, it's the same kind of thinking, reprogramming that belief that booking jobs is hard or rare or that you have no control over it, and instead conditioning yourself to believe that more offers are coming or more opportunities are coming. I also want you to, aside from those 2 points of being willing to walk away from money, being willing to walk away from, or being willing to not be booked, I want you to remind yourself of your values, your priorities, and your goals. Because when you do that, it is so much easier to access peace around saying no. When you are showing yourself examples of how it's possible to stay booked and still stay in alignment with your priorities and your goals and your values. When you get your mind focused on your plans as if you hadn't even received the offer, right? If you are reminding yourself, oh, this is the career that I want. This is what I'm willing to do for it. These are the things that I absolutely will not compromise. And here are the action steps that I'm going to take, right? When you make a plan like that and you get yourself focused on that as if the offer never happened, it's just like resetting yourself to before the offer never happened, right? Before the offer never happened, you weren't freaking out about, oh my gosh, should I say yes or should I say no? No, you were just diligently working on your plan. So reminding yourself of your values, your priorities, and your goals, getting yourself focused back on the plan, showing yourself of examples of how it's possible to book and stay in alignment with all those things. And then finally, finding other ways to exercise your artistic muscle is a super great way to get yourself back into peace around saying no to offers or not being booked, right? Because if you are finding other ways to exercise your artistic muscles, then you don't have this reason of like, oh, I'm not being an artist. I'm not doing art things, right? You always feel like you're being an artist if you are constantly making art and you're being an artist. That sounded redundant, but it's like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, if you are doing the things that make you an artist, like making art, you're being an artist. So it's a lot easier to believe that you're an artist. So things like booking gigs and other subfields that utilize your unique skills and gifts, right? I mostly work in theater, musical theater, commercials. But if I book a voiceover gig, that feels amazing to me. I don't have to take every theater job that comes my way. Or if I book a short film, that feels awesome. Or even like when I book band gigs, I do a lot more. Actually, I do quite a few band gigs. But it's not my like main source of bread and butter when it comes to performing. So when I do book a band gig, it feels so good. It feels just like I'm playing and having fun, and I feel like I'm making art. So then I'm not so hung up on, well, I didn't get my Broadway offer this year, or I didn't get this many Broadway callbacks. I'm not that hung up on that when I have other ways of expressing myself as an artist, and other ways of booking gigs as an artist. Collaborating with other colleagues and peers. When I first got back from Hairspray, when I was doing the Hairspray tour in Australia, I didn't book gigs right away because I wasn't auditioning, right? I had no access to auditions. Well, okay, that's not entirely, I did have access to one audition and casting process, which I ended up booking, which is Dreamgirls, but I didn't have a ton of callbacks when I got back, and I didn't have gigs in the first couple of weeks because I didn't have access to all the other auditions that were going on. So what did I do to make myself feel like I was still an artist and still feel like I was a professional? Was I actually joined a play reading group with, it wasn't random people, but like when I say random people, I mean like these aren't people that were necessarily pursuing play reading for the sake of booking jobs. They were just people getting together because they loved plays, they loved learning about plays, and they loved reading plays. So I got myself in a play reading group, and it felt like I was still doing the work because I was learning about new characters, I was learning about new plays, I was actually flexing my acting muscle by doing the reading. I was intermingling with some people who were in the profession. So I still felt like I was being an artist, which made me feel not so in a hurry to have to book the next gig, right? I was still getting myself back in auditions, but I wasn't clinging to every single audition or every single callback that started to that came in after that point, because I was still being an artist. Producing your own work. This is a great way for you to not feel so attached to every offer and to be at peace with saying no with offers. Because if you are, for instance, writing your own songs, it's still a professional endeavor as an artist. When I was writing my own songs during the pandemic, while everyone else was freaking out, I should make a podcast on that, because I didn't freak out during the pandemic about my career at all, because I was still working. I was in class, I was writing songs. At the end of the pandemic, I actually like produced a song and I ended up releasing it a couple of years ago. So doing all that work, producing my own work, actually made me feel like I was still working as a professional. So it wasn't so clingy to the idea of, oh my gosh, I'm not booked, right? None of us were booked. So there's no need to freak out anyway, but I wasn't clinging to that idea of like needing to be booked as an artist because I was still being an artist. Getting in class, again, I was in class during that time, so I didn't feel clingy to that. Anytime I am in between theater gigs, when I am in class, I still feel like I am doing the work. I still feel like I'm being that professional artist. So I'm not always in a hurry to just take any job because I'm still doing the work. Okay. Whew, I am doing a lot of talking on this episode. Now I'm going to talk about thoughts and things that will help you to say no. So we talked about why you should say no, when's a good time to say no, how to be at peace with saying no. Once you've done all those things, by that point, you're probably decided that you're going to say no to something. So how do you actually say no? And here are the top things that I have learned, that I found, make it a lot easier to say no. Allowing your feelings, being grateful for your present, aka the now, remembering what's possible, having certain thoughts and a mindset that help you to say no, and celebrating the offer that you got. So let me dig deep into those points. Allowing your feelings. When you don't allow yourself to feel what you feel about saying no, it makes it so much harder for you to actually follow through and say no, right? So if part of what you feel is a little bit of disappointment that you're walking away from a gig, which is totally normal, and I don't advise people to try to get themselves out of that feeling. It's totally normal to like get an offer for something and you get that initial burst of excitement because you're like, oh my gosh, I got an offer. People appreciated my work and I have an opportunity, a possible opportunity to continue to do this work. And then you realize it's not really right for you in whatever way. It feels disappointing when you have that realization and you realize, oh, maybe you won't be doing this work further. That feels disappointing. Allow yourself to feel disappointed, because if you don't allow yourself to feel disappointment and you push that away or you pretend that it's not there, then you don't actually give yourself the opportunity to tell the truth about the fact that it's not right for you. Does that make sense? Let me say it again. You're not allowing the disappointment, which means you're not allowing yourself to tell the truth about the fact that it's not right for you, right? Because the disappointment is there because you realize you should probably say no, and that's the next step for you. But if you're like, I'm not disappointed, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong here. Nothing has gone wrong. It's so much easier to gaslight yourself into believing that maybe you should take the offer. So I am a strong proponent of let yourself feel what you feel. Let yourself feel disappointed. Let yourself feel frustrated that they're not willing to offer you terms that you want to take. Let yourself feel all those initial feelings so that you can tell the truth about the experience that you're having and that you can have an honest conversation with yourself about how to move forward. Having gratitude for where you are now is going to make it so much easier for you to let the disappointment happen, let all those feelings happen, and let them be in your body and be at peace with the fact that you feel that way, right? Because if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so disappointed, and yet I'm really proud of all the work that I've put in. I'm really proud of how far I've come in my career so far. I'm so appreciative that I already have a warm, safe house to live in, and I already have money in my bank account, and I have more auditions in my calendar this week. And I'm so grateful for all of this stuff. Makes it so much easier for you to be like, okay, I'm disappointed, but my life's pretty great, so I'm gonna be fine. Doesn't it? Like, even just me saying that, you can kind of tell that it makes it a lot easier for you to be like, oh, I can let this go. Remembering what's possible, showing yourself the outcome if you kept up with your plan as if the offer never came, showing yourself the outcome if you kept getting better and better and better and increasing your conversions, even if you never got this offer, right? What this does is it takes you out of that zoomed in tunnel vision state of mind, and gets you to zoom out into the broader perspective of your career. Because at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of your career, this one little offer, this one little job doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I look back at jobs that I was like so bent out of shape about and had my panties in a bunch about, oh my gosh, should I accept this offer? What should I ask for? What should I do? What should I do? I look back and I'm like, honestly, I'm glad that I did that. And it was really a great opportunity. But if I never actually got that offer, it wouldn't have made a difference in my career. Not one bit, not at all. And that's true for most individual opportunities that you get, right? They really, in the grand scheme of things, don't actually matter. What actually matters is the entire longevity of your career, the entire broad perspective of your career. So reminding yourself that there is more outside of this opportunity, and to show yourself the future, what would happen if you did keep just working on your plan, what would you create if you did just keep getting better and better and better and increasing conversions, as if this thing never happened, right? And showing yourself what's possible. So much easier for you to be like, oh yeah, I've got this. I actually don't need this job. Thoughts and mindset that make it so much easier to say no. I'm going to offer you some that I've used that I think are super, they're general enough and they're specific enough to get to a lot of your like objections around saying no, but they're general enough that I think that, anybody can take and like internalize and use for themselves. But I encourage you, as I'm thinking of this, if you get inspired with more ideas of ways of thinking, to write those down and keep them for yourself. If you have a thought that gets sparked in you and you feel an emotional change, please write that down and keep that for yourself. That is going to be the most helpful way of thinking for you for now, right? Okay, so here's some ways of thinking that I have that make it so much easier for me to say no. You've heard these first two. More offers are coming, and there are more opportunities. My favorite way of framing that thought is there are 1,000 opportunities coming my way. So if you heard the rejection, the confidence injection episode from last month, this is the concept that I use all the time, right? Whether I have to say no to an offer, whether I don't make it through a casting process, there are 1,000 offers. It's not that big of a deal. This one little thing is not going to make or break my career. The next thought is my skills and gifts are highly valuable. I'm so talented, I'm so skilled, whatever version of that thought helps you, that makes you feel confident that you can create more opportunities for yourself. My values are the highest priority, right? Reframing this whole circumstance of getting an offer out of, oh, I got an offer, into what do I actually value? What do I actually, what's actually a priority to me? That makes it so much easier for me to say no. I don't know about you, but I am responsible for my finances. This thought gets at the objection of, oh, but I need money. No, I don't need money from them. Sure, we all need money. We all need money. We all need to make money. That's not going to change as long as we're in a capitalist society. But I don't need money from them because I'm responsible for my finances. I will find ways to make money. I am capable of making money in many ways. This is one of my favorite thoughts. This is what helped me to find these side careers that I love so much, that I have expanded so much as a human in, is opening myself up to the idea that maybe I'm capable of making money in different ways. And now I'm like, no, I'm capable of making money in so many ways. Like there are so many ways that money comes to me now. I have so many different streams of income or ways to make money, and it feels like the most freeing thing in the world. So try that thought on and see if it does anything for you. I am always an artist. I am always an artist. When I feel that, I feel like a whoosh, like a grounding, like, oh, I don't need this job to prove anything. I don't need to prove to myself that I'm an artist. I am always an artist. I don't really need this job for that. The perfect job for me is coming. Or as some of my friends like to say, what's for you will not pass you by. That's one way of framing it. What's the other way that someone just said it to me? What's for you will be for you. There's like so many different ways of saying it, but find the way that works for you, because it's true. Like the perfect job for you is on its way. And I want to talk more about an example from my life that I have of this exact thought, that it's actually not gonna pass you by. I'm going to talk about, I am going to make the negotiation episode. I'm definitely going to do that, because that was like part of the story, is that like, it was kind of the perfect job for me. So they were willing to change their mind about some things. So it was a perfect job for me. I was the perfect job for it. So it's not going to pass me by. So whatever that is for you is coming. This may not be it. Maybe they think you're perfect for it, but you know that the job is not perfect for you, but the perfect job for you is coming. And the final thought that is kind of like the underlying thought of all of these, but sometimes it just really helps to just say it out loud, is I don't need this job. I know that a chorus line taught us that I really need this job, but you don't. You don't really need this job. There's so many more. Stop thinking that song. Don't sing that song and believe it. Like you can sing it for fun, but we don't really need this job anymore. I don't remember when a chorus line came out, but we're past that. It's 2024. We don't need this job. We don't need this job. There's so many ways for you to make money. There's so many more opportunities. There's so many ways to make art. You don't need it. Okay. The last point is celebrating creating this offer. This sounds counterintuitive, but I promise you, it's one of the biggest ways that I found to help myself let go of any opportunities that come my way that I know are not right for me. And here's why. When you celebrate the offer or the callback or the audition that you got, and you celebrate it from the perspective of that you created it, celebrate creating it, it instills in your mind that you're capable of doing it again. And I want to tell you exactly how you celebrate so that it does this properly, but sit with that for a second. If you are celebrating, oh, I created this. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself. I did this. I'm such a badass. I made this happen. You can feel in your body that sense of empowerment, that sense of confidence that comes from telling yourself that. Try it out. I don't know if you've created an offer recently, but think of something that you like. If you went out and you got an audition, or you went out and you got a callback, or you got an agent, or whatever it is, tell yourself this. Oh my gosh, I did that. I took actions that made that happen. I am so awesome. I created this experience. How does it feel in your body? Don't you feel like a badass? Don't you feel like capable of going out and doing some more badass shit? That's why it's so important to celebrate. Even if you're saying no, it's still important to celebrate it, because what it does is it trains your brain to know that you can do it again. You can create another offer. It's totally fine to let this one go because you just created this on your own. Maybe not on your own. That's probably not true. It's hardly ever true that we do things on our own. But if you hadn't taken certain actions, it wouldn't have happened. So you created this, right? Where there is one, there are more. And it's only getting better from here, right? That's a way that you can frame this way of thinking, is where there's one, there's more. And it's only getting better from here, because if I did it at this level and I'm only getting better every day, then I'm going to do it at a higher level, which means that I'm probably going to create either more jobs or better jobs. Here's how I want you to do it when you are celebrating things that you create, such as offers. I want you to actually tell yourself, like, oh my gosh, I did that. And I want you to explain to yourself how you did it. How did you contribute to this? What were the actions that you took? Did you go on Actors Access and submit yourself to a notice? Did you have a really intense preparation process that you developed just for this particular casting process, and that's what you got you the offer? Write down everything that you did, like everything, even the little things, like, oh, I got up a half hour earlier for the audition. That sounds like it's a little thing, but it's really a big thing, right? Write down every single thing that you did. And then I also want you to write down what were the most helpful thoughts and feelings that you had through the process that drove you to take those actions, that drove you to show up and do your best work, that drove you to, oh, I'm blurry. What is happening? That drove you to find the audition, whatever it is. What were the most helpful thoughts and feelings that allowed you to create that result? When you celebrate like this, it leaves no room for your brain to decide that it was out of your hands and that it was just a fluke and that you had nothing to do with it. This is how you celebrate and train your brain that you can do it again. So all of these points, allowing your feelings, having gratitude for the present moment and where you are now, remembering what's possible, having a mindset to say no, and celebrating creating this offer, those are going to make it so much easier for you to say no, and so much easier for you to follow through with that process when you know that it's not right for you. So I want to hear your thoughts on all the things that we just talked about. This was a long episode. I've talked so much, but I think it's so valuable. This is one of the most valuable, one of many of the most valuable concepts that I use in my career when I'm navigating casting processes, when I'm saying no to things. This way of thinking is so helpful. So I want to hear what you think about it, what you got from it. What are some thoughts that got inspired? What are some actions that got inspired? And how are you going to utilize this to help you to say no to offers in the future? Or if you found, oh, this will be really, really great for when I am going through a casting process, how are you going to utilize these concepts through the casting process? I can't wait to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next episode.